Let's bring in Real Clear Politics Associate Editor AB Stoddard. AB, a Bloomberg Clinton ticket. Might we see such a thing?
John, I really don't think so. I don't think there's anything to this trial balloon or rumor that has not been confirmed beyond the Drudge Report. Mike Bloomberg is a very smart man. We don't know exactly what he's going to do weeks and months from now in this sort of candidacy / super PAC operation he's running. But we do know that picking someone who couldn't turn out the vote in 2016 that got Donald Trump elected is not something I think that Mike Bloomberg would be interested in doing.
But up till now, I mean, she is a very popular Democratic leader. You look at the polls, and Hillary Clinton is widely admired.
Hillary Clinton is not very popular. None of the candidates in 2018 running in the midterms had her or her husband campaign for them. They wish she would stop making movies about herself and giving interviews and trashing Bernie Sanders and making things more difficult. John, she is obviously a favorite of the right who likes to resurrect the idea of her running all the time. But until I see Mike Bloomberg confirm something like this or several other outlets, I just don't buy it.
Well, Bloomberg may have a problem with women, as was mentioned in Ellison Barber's piece just now. Here's part of an excerpt from the Washington Post article that Michael Kranish put out. Several lawsuits have been filed over the years alleging that women were discriminated against at Bloomberg's business information company, including a case brought by a federal agency and one filed by a former employee who blamed Bloomberg for creating a culture of sexual harassment and degradation. When you've offended half of the potential voting public, that's a problem, and the Bloomberg campaign seems to be trying to get out in front of this story. AB.
Right. I did see some ads and some pushback PR-wise that the Bloomberg campaign had launched to try to get out in front of this. Look, there's a lot of opposition research coming out of Mike Bloomberg, and I think it is going to hurt him. And I think that the timing of that in terms of momentum for a candidate like Bernie Sanders or any potential comeback for Joe Biden in South Carolina, these next days and weeks will really be interesting to see if that kind of thing stops what is actually really impressive momentum for Mike Bloomberg. A lot of people, John, in the Democratic Party saying if they just want to beat Trump, they are happy to get behind, if Biden or these other moderates don't pull it out, happy to get behind Bloomberg. They think that Sanders would cost the Democrats a majority in the House as a nominee. They think that a lot of black voters are realizing that Mike Bloomberg might be their only hope to beat Donald Trump. So in terms of what he has done to offend the African-American community or women voters, it'll be interesting to see how much more comes out and whether it cuts into what seems like growing energy behind him in polling and in support.
We'll get into Bernie Sanders in a moment, but here's a response, a tweet actually from Mike Bloomberg that seems to be directed to these charges that he has been not supportive of women. He writes, "I would not be where I am today without the talented women around me. I've depended on their leadership, their advice, and their contributions. As I've demonstrated throughout my career, I will always be a champion for women in the workplace." So as you said, it's a case of the campaign trying to get out in front of these charges before they start to snowball.
Right. I just think that there are two groups of Democrats right now, and they're completely divided in the party and in the primary voting electorate, right, which is much more activist-based, grassroots energy, more progressive. There are a bunch of voters who believe that Donald Trump's second term is a national emergency and must be avoided at all costs. They're willing to elect a creep who's done the wrong thing for women or hasn't done the right thing for non-white voters, if that's what it takes. There are a whole bunch of voters, maybe more of them in the Democratic Party, who want a purely progressive agenda. They want what they want. They want free lunch socialism, and they want a candidate who shares their ideals more than a candidate who's electable. And this is a huge division between these camps that we will see the nomination process end up deciding, but we don't know at this point where more energy is. I am so surprised to hear about people who are willing to support Mike Bloomberg and do not care what is going to come out about him because they're so glad he's fighting President Trump on Facebook and spending all this money.
But the option, I mean, one of the as you mentioned earlier, one of the likely options at this moment in time is that we could see a guy who's not purely a member of the Democrat Party, he's a Democrat socialist, becoming the party nominee, AB.
Absolutely. And the party establishment, John, thinks that Bernie Sanders is a disaster as a general election candidate, that he would be beaten by Trump handily in all the Rust Belt states, the battleground states, that they might lose their House majority if they have a socialist on the ticket.
I hate to interrupt, but Bloomberg all of a sudden looks very palatable to a wide swath of the party rather than a socialist like Bernie Sanders?
Oh, yes, definitely. Absolutely. The voters who prioritize defeating Trump absolutely think that Bloomberg is a better choice than Bernie Sanders. And it's actually becoming more and more widespread among African-American voters.
So what about Pete Buttigieg? I mean, he positions himself as the middle of the party. Why is there not a rush of support in the Buttigieg direction?
Well, I think Mike Bloomberg is impressing people with his ability to take on Trump sort of rhetorically and not back down. And then also because he has this, strong record as a businessman and a media mogul, and he has this unlimited supply of money he's willing to throw. They're very impressed with Pete Buttigieg's performance in Iowa and New Hampshire thus far. He's ahead in the delegates, even ahead of Bernie Sanders, but they don't know if he can go all the way. They don't know if someone that young, who has just been a mayor of a 100,000 person city, who is not getting any black support so far, can actually go the distance. So he and Senator Klobuchar have to prove themselves to a bunch of voters who think that they're impressive but don't know if they can contend all the way to the nomination.
So the Democratic Party might turn to one of the richest men in the world to be its savior.
Who has been a Republican longer than Donald Trump.
Fascinating.
And is not a real Democrat. Right.
AB Stoddard. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, John.